Well, welcome to From the Desk. This is an official podcast of Bethel Community Church. My name is Leonard Tavernelli, and I have the privilege of serving as lead pastor of Bethel Community Church. And with me today, I have a special guest, Jeff Isola. Jeff is a member here of Bethel, and he is involved in various ways. Jeff, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
And so Pastor Solomon, Lord willing, will be back soon, but I'm so thankful that Jeff can join me today in his stead. Well, this past Sunday, we looked at 1 Kings 1 for Mother's Day, and I believe that was from the Lord and not just me having one of those crazy moments, though that this is a bit of an unusual text for Mother's Day. We got to see a faithful mother in action in Bathsheba. And Jeff, as you were listening to the sermon, I know that you had something that caught your attention that you wanted to speak about today.
Yeah, so thank you. So one thought I had is, even when we're moving in the direction God has for individual lives, there's often still obstacles that pop up that we have to deal with. So we're all probably familiar with David and how even though when he was very young, he was anointed to be king of Israel, but he had to wait years. He had to deal with Saul. He was on the run from Saul. And we're probably familiar with a lot of the more common stories of the anxiety and obstacles and difficulty he had around those circumstances. And then when we were learning this week from the sermon this week, I was thinking how there was a similar situation that appeared with Solomon, because he also found out he was going to be the next king, and certainly God could have chosen somebody else to be king if he wanted, but he chose Solomon, and Solomon knew that. And yet, I imagine Solomon must have had struggles and thoughts, anxiety, fear, just like many of us, have to struggle with, when even though he had been told he was going to be king, his older brother had started moving to become king himself and trying to take control of the throne. And so I just thought that was interesting how it played out in David's life, it played out in Solomon's life, and here in 2025, a lot of us are still trying to sort through that.
Yeah, and we see it even in Jesus. Jesus, as he's preparing to accomplish all of his work, even Jesus is regularly doing these. He doesn't just come and immediately go to the cross. Likewise, he doesn't go to the throne. He goes to the cross first. And then even through that, Jesus is now on the throne, but he's still awaiting the time when all of his enemies are made his footstool. That's a great insight, Jeff, that is a pattern of how God works in us. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly what Solomon's thinking. I'm sure, there probably is hey, wait a second. I'm supposed to be king, and Adonai is proclaiming himself king. What's going on here? He went through that time of waiting until David finally makes him co-regent, and it's the same for us. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that as I have. You often have to wait. Even when you know what God wants you to do, even when you're going in the right direction, God often has you patiently waiting as he's working on you, even through the things that we suffer. Any other thoughts on that?
No, it is interesting what you said, because just recently, I believe it was Easter Sunday or maybe the week before, we were teaching in the children's program, and we did talk about that, how Jesus, in the Garden of Gethsemane was, stressed to the point of the drop of blood from his forehead, while the disciples were sleeping. So think about that. And often, we're going through difficult times, and the rest of the world is just going along. But, it's in those times that God calls us to trust him. And again, we don't know exactly what's going on with Solomon. We know that Nathan and Bathsheba are at least concerned enough that they're acting on this. In those times, God calls us, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart
Lean not on your own understanding. Acknowledge God in all your ways. He'll make your paths straight. Likewise, Peter says, 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7, he says that we're to humble ourselves, casting our anxieties on God, knowing He cares for us. And it's in those times God grows us and prepares us even for what He has for us. So, that's a great insight, Jeff. Thanks. Something else that we always talk about, there's a lot that goes into sermon prep that doesn't end up making it into the pulpit. But I actually had something that made it from the desk into the pulpit but didn't make it into the sermon. And part of that was just I realized I only had so much time and so much that I could cover, and it may have taken away from it. But interestingly, in the passage in 1 Kings 1, there are puns on the mothers' names. So there's Haggith, whose name means festal or feasting. And if you, in 3 times in verses 9, 19, and 41, her son is feasting. Likewise, Bathsheba, her name means daughter of the oath. She is given this oath by David. And it's noted that he swore to her that Solomon would be king. First Nathan does in verse 13, notes that. Then she notes it, verse 17. Verse 30, then David notes it. And it ends up being that 3 times likewise, there's you have everything David says that they're supposed to do, they do it. And then it ends up being that Jonathan ends up recounting what has happened to make Solomon king. And I think part of what the author shows us is that parents have an impact in our children's lives. I don't think the point is if you happen to have a name that's going to affect your children, but more of our character, the things that we do will impact our children. And I think that's an important insight that it's true for mothers, it's true for fathers. You're a father, I'm a father. Any thoughts on that in the lives of your own daughters?
Well, I guess a couple things. One is, it's I guess you can look at it either way, right? But I think we should choose to look at it as a hopeful or an encouraging thought, because that we can make a positive impact. Certainly, a lot of us probably are concerned that we're teaching things we don't intend to, because more is caught than taught, right? Mm-hmm. And so I guess you could look at it the other way and be like, almost it can almost be discouraging. But I think we choose to find it to be encouraging and look for teachable moments and opportunities to make a positive impact on our kids. It can seem difficult at times, but when you actually talk to the kids, not necessarily mine, but when you talk to the kids, you find out that they are catching the good things that you're trying to teach them.
Yeah, I think that's a big encouragement, especially to moms. Moms tend to spend more time with their kids even than dads do. And yeah, I mean, how many children have a godly mother, godly grandmother, or whatever, who impacted their lives, oftentimes in ways that they wouldn't have even realized that their kids were watching in those moments, and God uses it. Thank God that He does.
Absolutely.
And finally, on this podcast, we like to talk about a song that we sang this past Sunday and how it fit into the overall the worship gathering. And this past Sunday, we sang "Great Is Thy Faithfulness," a great old hymn. Most people probably even know it well enough they wouldn't even have to read the words to sing it. But it's a song that we chose that really goes well with 1 Kings 1, and that we see God's faithfulness to bring about His purpose to put Solomon on the throne. And so in the song it says, "There is no shadow of changing or turning with God. He changes not. His compassions, they fail not. As He's been, He forever will be." Why? Because He's a God who's faithful. And the third verse then talks about how there's pardon for sin. We see that with Adoniah, though he went to the altar to try to escape being put to death, he never really gets pardoned for sin from Solomon because he's still a rebel. But we get pardoned for sin because we have a great Savior. We have Jesus. Any thoughts on that, Jeff?
The only thing that's coming to mind is, Rachel had a artistic rendering made of that famous verse in Lamentations about God's mercies are new every morning, and that, again, there can be struggles that we deal with for days or weeks or longer throughout our lives. And, no matter how much we struggle with something, God's mercies are new continually. It's really amazing when you think about it.
Yeah, and that's one of those songs. Take it with you, sing it wherever you go, because it's just a great reminder. I know it's one of those songs I sing regularly. Nobody wants to hear me sing it, but I do sing it. So what a great reminder of God's great faithfulness, certainly to mothers and grandmothers, having been Mother's Day, but to all of us. Well, thank you for joining us for From the Desk. We look forward to seeing you again soon.